Another Wednesday is come and gone, and I've got some comics. Let's talk about them. Hey, welcome to 9 Panel Grid. This week, we've seen spicy ramen hijinks, refugee renouncements, and manipulation from the mouse. But we're going to kick things off this week with Absolute Batman number 10, written by Scott Snyder with artwork by Nick Dragotta. This is the first time I feel like this series has leaned into the real bombastic nature of the book, which is wild to think because we're talking about a character who has a bat symbol for an axe on his chest. And that's crazy to think of, but this one I feel like is leaning into the manga-esque influences from Nick Dragotta, and I really appreciate that. This is some wild bombastic stuff where Bruce gets a chance to get really brutal in it, and I liked that a lot. This just it leans into those manga influences. It shows each and every page that you're dealing with. We get to learn a lot more about Arc M and some of the experimentation that's being conducted here, and we really get to see something that's going on here, particularly with Bruce's friend Waylon. So this was a really exciting issue here. I feel like this is now starting to ramp up here in a big bad way, and I'm here for it. Sticking around in the Absolute Universe, we're going to talk Absolute Flash number 5, written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by A.L. Kaplan. This one is totally different than Absolute Batman for me. It's not connecting whatsoever, issue to issue. It feels really disjointed from each issue, and it's not doing enough to connect me to care about the main character enough and really want to come back and kind of, I don't know, live within this world and explore the character motivations here. The artwork is okay. It's really not living up to the standards, though, that Nick Robles had set forth when the series had kicked off here. And that's the strength of this issue. The way that he renders the Speed Force is really exciting. On top of that, we see power usage from Wally that I don't know if it was supposed to make sense, but it didn't make sense to me. And maybe that just means that I wasn't picking up on some of the, I don't know, intricacies of how he was utilizing that power. But it just didn't trigger as right to me, even in the zany world that is comic books itself. So if you figured out what he was doing, let me know in the comments down below. What I can say overall, though, is that Absolute Flash is kind of losing me and maybe possibly already lost me. We have a new premiere issue that kicked off this week with Ghost Pepper number 1, written and drawn by Ludo Lullaby. So, for those who don't know, Ludo Lullaby, I kind of came to know their work previously as they were the person who took the reins over on the Battle Chasers, not relaunch, but continuation when Joe Mad kind of brought the series back. Ludo was doing the artwork on it, and it just makes so much sense that they're putting out this story because it's a really fun action fantasy that is super, super indulgent. It's the reluctant hero story that's being called back into action. He had done these great things in the past and kind of saved society, but then went into hiding, and now things have really gone to hell, and he's kind of being pulled back into the frays. Is this more style than substance? Yes, absolutely. But that style is really, really cool. This main character is hyper powerful. He's ripping monsters in half, or robotic monsters, I should say, in half. He teams up with some of the characters that are living within this world that, strays this line between technology driven and fantasy driven. I'm totally here for it. It was a really fun book here. And sometimes you want that change of pace here. Everything doesn't have to be weighty. Sometimes it can just be a hell of a time. This book, it's a hell of a time. Moving over to Marvel, we have Imperial number 2, written by Jonathan Hickman with artwork by Federico Vincentini and Iban Coelho. So we get more of the conspiracy is being revealed here as we get to spend a lot of time with Wakanda proper in this issue. And we get to start to see how Wakanda is actually starting to retaliate, and they're kind of taking in all this information from the assassination attempts and the plot that's going on that's taking out each and every one of these cosmic leaders. Now it looks like each party that's involved with this is kind of coalescing and kind of coming together to start to, I don't know, get some revenge on one another and start to plot out the future for each one of their factions, albeit they're falling right into the plans of the real person who's kind of driving everything and playing this game of chess. And it's really interesting because I feel like this is going to end up having ties to the greater Marvel cosmic, universe here, even outside of that, what we already know, including maybe the year 3000. I don't want to spoil anything, but I think I have some theories here. As each one of these things happen, we find everyone is in the crosshairs of each other, but truly they're in the crosshairs of the person who is driving all of these things from happening. The issue is exciting. It's the kind of thing that you expect from Jonathan Hickman. What I can say though about the art is that while I appreciate both artists, the flip flop between art can be really jarring. And it's not to say that one is better than the other, but when the change happens, it's noticeable. And when it's noticeable, it draws you a little bit out of that experience. All right, let's talk Marvel Knights The World to Come #2, written by Christopher Priest with artwork by Joe Quesada. So, we have the answers we were looking for after issue 1 left us on this wild cliffhanger, leading to events that I don't think anyone except for maybe Christopher Priest and Joe Quesada anticipated. This is a story that is drawing all the way back to the very run that kind of like really brought Black Panther into my scope when Christopher Priest had written Black Panther for the kickoff of Marvel Knights itself. This is a continuation of that. We're looking into the future of that particular universe, which could be the future of this universe that we're living in, the 616, but it's definitely a love letter to the time at Marvel Knights. What's interesting about this, though, is that while we get the revelations about who this character is that is trying to take the mantle over Wakanda and his interactions and relationship with some other characters that are really well known from Christopher Priest's time on Black Panther, it's called Marvel Knights The World to Come, not Black Panther The World to Come. So I'm wondering, while this is Black Panther centric, are we going to see more characters get pulled into the fray from the other Marvel Knights titles that really relaunched Marvel in a big bad way in the late 90s, early 2000s? Is this truly just a Black Panther story? Right here and right now, it's firmly Black Panther, but I'm really excited to see where they go with this. I think that the espionage, the intrigue of all of these things that are happening within Wakanda itself are really exciting. But with that title, I want to know, is this going to be a growing thing? Maybe is this a series? Time will tell on that. For this issue, though, I had a really good time with it. Next up, we have New Gods #8, written by Ram V with artwork by Evan Cagle. This was an interesting issue. This was like a sigh of relief kind of issue, albeit it was a very brief sigh of relief. So the people of New Genesis are now refugees. They've come to Earth in the JLU. They have been there to basically facilitate, bringing them in, bringing them to a place where they can now stay, reestablish themselves, and figure out where they're going to be able to pick up the pieces and move forward. Highfather, though, is just reeling with guilt over the recent death that they've experienced, and he is ready to do some bold things that nobody really anticipates. But it's nice seeing all of our main players back together. I feel like the first arc of this series was all about finding this new god, finding the child, and making sure that Orion could not finish out his original plan. Now that part of the story is over. Now they understand a little bit more about what is the meaning behind this prophecy and maybe what it means for this child to be in existence. And now it seems like they're all going to be working together, albeit it's under a different guise now that their leadership is no longer with them. Villains are preparing to make their moves here. It feels like we're setting up for the end game on this, and that's really exciting. So this one was a more relaxed issue than what we've gotten previously, as it's been go, 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 but it feels like it's also a ramp up issue in that same vein. Next up, we have Phantom Road #14, written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Gabriel Hernandez Walta. So, dissimilar to what I was just talking about with New Gods here, each issue of this arc of Phantom Road has been a ramp up. It's been building tension and tension and tension upon tension, and it's been really cool, but it's not offering that relief. This was a really quick issue, like super, super quick. You can breeze through that, and that I could really say that about most issues of Phantom Road. It's kind of classic Lemire writing styles. However, there are things that are happening here. Harold and his partner are really stuck trying to make some hard decisions here. And now that his partner is in possession of this glowing orb egg thing from the other dimension, he has to decide whether or not he can actually part ways with it physically, and if he's going to be able to do what he needs to do to save a person close to him in his life. And that is going to make Harold even make some very difficult decisions. This is all still happening in the past. This is kind of leading us up to the future point where we know that another character is investigating, the nature of these murders and how they're happening on these highways, particularly at these certain places, and where our other main characters are going to be now that they're in possession of this egg in the future. So it's really exciting stuff. I like that they're spending so much time in the past really building this out and really building out the mythos that is making this feel so X-File-y, and that's really cool. I dug that show back in the day. I really dig this book. Phantom Road is an easy read. It's not going to be overly complex, but I think it's worthwhile, and if you're not reading it now, definitely make sure that you're checking it out in trade. Next up, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 10, written by Jason Aaron with artwork by Juan Ferreira. This was a conflicting issue. I'm personally conflicted with this because my problem with the first arc of this series is that the brothers weren't together. I need the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, plural. I need all of them. And I like that the chemistry of the brothers is back, but this issue kind of got a little silly if I'm not being, if I'm being honest here. Ferreira doesn't have much to do. In fact, it's all basically a court scene. There's like half of the issue spent within a jail cell, half of the issue spent in this courtroom, and that's it. And I'm not here for that kind of Ninja Turtles. That's kind of a boring Ninja Turtles, and that's exactly what this issue is. So we get the brotherly dynamic while they're in the jail cell and they're trying to work out their problems and they're grieving still for Splinter. And then we get to the courtroom and it is just kind of a little bit zany. It's more zany than I think I want from a book that even has mutated human-sized turtles in it. There's some revelations here, there's some resolutions regarding a certain goalie masked individual, and I appreciate that. But this one was definitely just kind of like a downer issue after we've gotten so many cool issues that I've really, really enjoyed. So I think they could probably pick up the pace here. It was just kind of a bummer that Juan Ferreira didn't have anything exciting to render on the pages. It was a little bit more character driven, more story driven, but it also didn't take us to any places at the end of the game. All right, let's talk This Ends Tonight, number 1, written by Jerry Duggan with artwork by Jay Lee. This is the book that has been delayed, it feels like, forever, and we finally have it in our hands now. And I have to say, after the build-up and the hype for me personally having this on my pull list for like the better part of a year, it was okay. It was all right. This was a bunch of show don't tell kind of storytelling, even though it was a little bit showy with Jay Lee being on the artwork. But what happened was everything is being told to you through the characters and through the narration, and the panel layouts themselves are incredibly disorienting. The way that Jay Lee kind of like had his visual storytelling portions, it just kind of like didn't jive with everything that was happening. So then the heavy lifting came by way of the story, and it didn't let the artwork shine. So nothing was really working in synchronicity, and that was a problem. The story itself, it feels like something that was an answer maybe to the hype that was Something is Killing the Children. I feel like this is something that like took that idea and really wanted to drive with it, and it just that kind of doesn't feel like it hits those notes that you would anticipate from something as huge as Something is Killing the Children. Now personally, I didn't read that. I'm kind of just doing a vibe check on that. If I'm closer than not though, kind of let me know in the comments down below, but I feel like I'm kind of hitting that one on the mark. This uses a bunch of fantasy tropes here as well, which I didn't anticipate. It was kind of billed as an action adventure, kind of like high octane kind of story, but then it kind of really sways into this fantastical world that is happening all behind the scenes. And that's cool. I think that I want to stick around. I want to see what happens in issue number 2. I just don't know if it's going to deliver enough to make it really worthwhile, especially for the amount of time that we needed to wait. Speaking of amounts of time to wait, though, let's talk Tin Can Society number 7, written by Peter Warren with artwork by Francesco Mobili. So this book was heavily delayed. However, I gotta say, I think it was kind of worth it. I'm really glad this book is back, and it picks up as if no time had passed whatsoever, both in my reading experience and in the pages of this book. We have cliffhanger after cliffhanger. This book does it masterfully, where it leaves you on this hook going, whoa, I can't wait to see what happens. The last issue did that, and that's why it's been so painful to wait. This issue picks right up on that with the revelation that certain individuals may not have passed away, and we start to get more of an idea of what this company is doing with these suits and what the major plan is and why things needed to play out the way they did, where this friend group was investigating this murder that maybe didn't happen. Mobili's artwork is crazy good. It is just like awesome. It's great staging, great visual storytelling, and it's really dynamic. All the angles that he uses, it's really great work. It just works so well when it's not just pretty pictures, it's great storytelling. But those two things combined make for a special experience. The friend group dynamic has changed also a bit, and I wish we got to spend a little bit more time with that in this issue. It's kind of like, kind of conducted in a hand wavy kind of way, but also I'm kind of okay with that because we're ramping up for the end game and there's been so much tension built up that they needed a little bit of a release, and we get that in this issue. So we're looking to kind of get into the end game. I'm excited for that. Tin Can Society, I'm just so glad it's back. Next up, we have Ultimate Black Panther number 18, written by Brian Edward Hill with artwork by Stefano Caselli. This was a crazy issue. This was awesome. T'Challa is he's going to have a lot to deal with when he gets back to Wakanda, as is all of the players in here. Um Storm and T'Challa are still together and they're still working towards their goal, but there are things that have been building, and we've seen this been building, issue over issue, and now we finally get a payoff on it. And I have to say that payoff, both action wise and character motivation wise, Caselli draws them like stupendously. He has such a feel for these characters and such a feel for the pacing of this book, which can be conceived as a slow burn, but his storytelling really makes it worthwhile, and the rendering just totally looks fantastic. There's a lot of things that happen in the plot here. It doesn't move it forward so much as it moves the characters forward. It really builds on some character motivations, and it really builds on some of the things that we know that our characters are going to have to deal with in the future. And I'm really excited for that. Sparks are flying. We get to see a little bit of the end game on what it means for this vibranium influence that's been over T'Challa, and what this creature is that has power, or wants power, over vibranium himself. So we're going to see that kind of looming in the background as well. So Ultimate Black Panther, this was a really great issue. Next up, we have Wonder Woman number 23, written by Tom King with artwork by Daniel Sampier. I get what Tom King was trying to do in this issue, mostly, kind of, but was it effective? I don't know. Like, this was, if you read the issue, you kind of already know, but there is a line that gets repeated over and over and over. And you kind of follow the story visually. And it's great to have Daniel Sampier back on this book because you get to follow that storyline, seeing his artwork, and he does it really well. But the dialogue in the book, again, knowing what they're trying to accomplish, is really kind of, I don't know, a waste of an issue if you ask me. There's something that's missing here. I don't necessarily like how they conducted it, and I think there was just a better way to do this overall. What I would have liked to see is maybe, I don't know, something, I don't know, more effective. What I do like is that Diana is kind of going away from what the JLU wants her to do and the UN. They've basically said, "Hey, your plan here is not going to work, and if you do this, you're kind of, you're making us enemies." And it's Diana. She's going to do what she's going to want to do. So it's kind of ramping up to something interesting, but as a single issue experience, I don't know. Daniel Sampier's back. That's good. Story, kind of lackluster. All right, let's talk Zatanna number 6, written and drawn by Jamal Campbell. So this is the last issue of this series, and we get a lot of insight into Lady White's backstory and some of the villainous motivations. It's kind of a bit thin, though. It's all a revenge plot. It's all against Zatanna's parents, which they can't get revenge on, so they have to seek out revenge through the children, which is going to be Zatanna. And it's okay. It's okay. Zatanna has like this cabal of mystical partners who are prepared to take on, the villains and thwart their plans and all this stuff. And it feels very formulaic. And that's about the best I can say for the story. I really do like the visual aspects that Jamal Campbell brings. The artwork is stunning, but in that same vein, I also don't feel like the artwork was necessarily always in service of telling the story in the best way possible, and that story itself narratively was a little bit thin. So nothing was really in conjunction with one another, and it kind of left me feeling like, this was okay. It was a fun journey to take, but not necessarily a worthwhile journey, especially knowing that we just had this fantastic Zatanna miniseries that was done by Mariko Tamaki and Javier Rodriguez. And that one it was all the buildup, and it was every issue was kind of like this big bold thing. And this one, uh, it's hard to not compare it. And when I have to compare it, I have to say it wasn't as good. And with my runner-up pick of the week, let's talk Redcoat number 13, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Brian Hitch. So the Northerner and Simon are on the trail of the cobbler, and we finally get the resolution to this story. And we get a little bit of a peek into what the Northerner's motivations were. We knew the vast majority of it, but we really get to see more so into his mindset and why he's partnering with Simon and some of the interactions that they've had in his past, but in Simon's future. So we get a little bit timey-wimey there, which is fun because now we're kind of being set some expectations of things that are going to be happening. Also, with the Northerner's influence and some of the things that he's telling Simon, Simon finally makes this change of heart and this change of character, the thing that we've been building for since the first issue, basically, where Simon Pure is the kind of character who is only looking out for himself, will always make the easy decision. And there is a decision that is made in this issue that finally kind of flips that on its head. And it's really great to see that because we've seen he's at every opportunity and every person basically call him out to say, hey, you're a hero, go be a hero. But he's been reluctant to do so. So this sets up some big things here, not only for this character, but it also sets up big things for the unnamed universe as it leaves us on a cliffhanger for some crazy big ideas that are going to be coming down the pipeline, not just in Redcoat, but also in Geiger and the premiere of First Ghost. So I'm really excited about that stuff. This was a great issue. Make sure you check it out. And with our top comic of the week, let's talk Batman and Robin, Year 1, Number 9, written by Mark Waid with artwork by Chris Samney. The arguably best book about Batman continues this year. Two-Face is kind of like revealing his ultimate plan. It's all coming together through the help of Clayface himself as they have whittled down the people who they believe to be Batman, and they know kind of sort of that it's really Bruce Wayne. Alfred's interactions in this book are really the heartbeat of the story, though. He has some moments with Dick Grayson that were truly incredible, rendered with such emotion by Chris Samney, and the narrative behind that, the reasoning behind why Dick Grayson kind of like puts up this wall over his emotions and won't convey those things to Bruce and Alfred, not just because he's an adoptive child who's trying to learn to trust these people and if he should trust them, but there's more motivation behind it. The pacing of the story and the building and the release of tension have been just a masterclass. It's Mark Waid doing what Mark Waid does best, who has been just a chameleon over the decades that he's been writing comics. He is able to bring a classic feel, but keeping like this modern sensibility to his writing, and that's what's kept him relevant and kept him writing comics that have been exciting and noteworthy over each and every year. This is no different here. Batman and Robin was absolutely fantastic. I love that we're getting close to the end game on this, but I have to say, I'm going to be really sad when it goes away because this has been one of my favorite Batman stories arguably ever, and it lives up to that Year 1 moniker, which is crazy because that is such a difficult thing to do. Batman and Robin Year 1 number 9 was absolutely worthy of top comic of the week. So that's what I've got for you this week, but I'm more curious. What did you read, and what were your thoughts? Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, and be part of the panel. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week.